Hey everyone, today I'll be telling you the story of one of the most influential scientists in history, Michael Faraday, and this is his story. Michael Faraday was born on September 22, 1791, in a small village called Newington Bute, England. He was the fourth of 5 children, and his father was a blacksmith. Growing up, he didn't have enough money to get an education, so he was forced to work in a factory at age 8. Fortunately, his mother saw that her son was not thriving in the factory setting and took him out to become an apprentice to a bookbinder. This ended up working out very well for young Michael, because while working here, he had free time to read books, which he spent reading many scientific and mathematical works. This is essentially how all AC generators work today. A Faraday cage is a conductive enclosure that can be used to block electromagnetic fields. It is named after Faraday because he discovered it. In 1836, while experimenting with the shielding of electrical and magnetic fields, the reason for this is that he died in 1867 before the Nobel Prize was awarded. If he had been alive when the Nobel Prize was first awarded in 1901, he would have been a shoo-in to win. In fact, many scientists believe that Faraday deserved to win the first Nobel Prize in physics. But unfortunately, he died before it was awarded. He first noticed that when benzene is exposed to air, it becomes darker in color and develops a strong odor. Electrolysis is the process of using electricity to break down a chemical compound into its constituent elements. His work laid the foundation for many of the technologies we use today, such as electricity, electrolysis, and organic chemistry. This shows that it's possible to achieve great things with hard work and dedication, even if you don't have the traditional credentials. Secondly, Faraday was incredibly curious, and he was always asking questions about the world around him. This curiosity led him to make some of his most famous discoveries, such as electromagnetic induction and Faraday's cage. Finally, Faraday was a true pioneer who wasn't afraid to go where no one had gone before. He was willing to take risks and explore new ideas, which ultimately led to some of the most important discoveries in the history of science. Despite not winning a Nobel Prize, he is considered one of the most influential scientists of all time, and his legacy continues to inspire scientists today. For example, when electricity is passed through water, it breaks down into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Faraday studied this process extensively, and he developed the laws of electrolysis, which state that the amount of substance produced by electrolysis is directly proportional to the amount of electricity passed through the electrolyte. These laws are fundamental to our understanding of electrochemistry and are used in many industrial processes today, such as the production of aluminum, sodium, hydroxide, and chlorine. He also noticed that it reacts violently with acids and bases, and that it is soluble in organic solvents but insoluble in water. He then began to study the composition of benzene, and he found that it is made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms. He also discovered that benzene is a cyclic compound, meaning that its atoms are arranged in a ring. There are many excellent resources available that can help you learn more about this amazing scientist. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Michael Faraday. If you did, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like. Thanks for watching. This discovery would revolutionize our understanding of organic chemistry and lead to the development of new drugs, materials, and technologies. He placed a metal box inside of which he placed some wires and a battery. He never went to university and was largely ignored by the academic establishment during his lifetime. One of his most famous experiments was his discovery of benzene. Benzene is an organic compound that is found in many substances such as gasoline and is used to make plastics, resins, synthetic fibers, dyes, and many other products. It's also a highly flammable liquid that can cause cancer if inhaled or touched to the skin. Because of its dangerous properties, it's not something you want to mess around with. It was not until after his death that his work was finally recognized, and he became one of the most influential scientists of all time. Then he placed another battery outside of the box and connected it to a galvanometer. When he connected the first battery, a current flowed through the wires inside the box, and a galvanometer showed that a current was flowing. However, when he turned off the first battery, the galvanometer showed that the current had stopped, even though the battery outside of the box was still connected to the wires. The current had stopped because the metal box was blocking the magnetic field of the battery. So Faraday had just invented the Faraday cage. By moving a magnet by a coil of wire, we can create an alternating current, which is then stepped up to higher voltages and sent through power lines to our homes and businesses. Without Faraday's discovery of electromagnetic induction, we wouldn't have electricity today. He taught himself calculus, algebra, and geometry, and then later on got a job as an electrician at a firm that was making electric components for the Royal Institution in London. At this point, Michael was attending lectures at the institution, and it was there that he met Sir Humphrey Davy, who was a well-known scientist at the time. For example, Faraday cages are used to protect sensitive electronic equipment from electromagnetic interference. They were also used in MRI machines to keep the strong magnetic field of the machine from interfering with other nearby equipment. Faraday cages are even used in airplanes to protect passengers and crew from lightning strikes. When an airplane is struck by lightning, the electric charge is conducted directly to the ground through the metal frame of the plane, protecting those inside from harm. Davy would take notice of Faraday's talents and would invite him to become his assistant. Before Faraday's discovery, it was known that a current could be created by moving a magnet, by a coil of wire, but no one knew if the opposite could also be true. You see, physicists at the time were curious about something called the conservation of energy. Basically, they wanted to know if energy could be created or if it had to come from somewhere else. Their best guess was that energy was conserved, but they weren't really sure. When Davy went on vacation, Faraday would end up taking over Davy's position, which led to him becoming the first chair of the Royal Institution at age 30. He began by creating a simple circuit with a battery and a coil of wire. He then placed a magnet near the coil and moved it quickly away from it. The needle of the galvanometer, which is used to detect current, quickly swung, indicating that a current had been created. He then repeated the experiment, but this time he moved the magnet toward the coil instead of away from it. Again, the galvanometer needle swung, but this time in the opposite direction. Faraday had just discovered that moving a magnet by a coil of wire creates a current, and that changing the direction of the magnetic field causes the current to change direction as well. He had discovered electromagnetic induction. It was during this time that he discovered electromagnetic induction, one of the most important concepts in all of physics. Faraday decided to perform an experiment to try and find the answer. This discovery would have huge implications for the future of electricity, as it meant that an alternating current could be created by moving a magnet back and forth near a coil of wire. But that wasn't all he discovered. While experimenting with electromagnetism, Faraday also discovered something called Faraday's cage. The invention of the Faraday cage has many applications today. But despite his incredible scientific discoveries, Faraday would never win a Nobel Prize. Another reason why Faraday is often overlooked is because he was a self-taught scientist. Now, while Faraday's work was primarily in the area of electromagnetism, he also made significant contributions to our understanding of chemistry and chemical compounds. But Faraday was curious about its properties, and he decided to do some experiments. In addition to his discovery of benzene, Faraday also made significant contributions to our understanding of electrolysis. Overall, Faraday was a brilliant scientist who made groundbreaking discoveries in the fields of physics and chemistry. So what can we learn from Faraday? First of all, he was a self-taught scientist who was able to make groundbreaking discoveries without the benefit of a formal education. If you want to learn more about Michael Faraday, I recommend reading a biography or watching a documentary about his life.